Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Super Paranormal Chronicles. Once again, I'm with my resident co-host, Megan. Say hello,
Hi,
Megan.
everyone. Hello.
And today I would like to introduce Keith Linder, who is the author of a couple of books called the Bothell Hell House. Did I say that correct, Keith?
Yes, correct. Yeah. Bothell Hell House.
Awesome.
Yes.
So I'd like you to introduce you to the show, my friend. Thank you very much for your time.
Hello. Good morning. It's still morning in Seattle, so good morning. Thanks for having me. Nice to meet you, Megan, as well.
Nice to meet you.
Hello. My name is Keith Linder. I'm an IT specialist, so to speak, senior program manager. Have been for quite some time. Originally from Austin, Texas, now living and residing in good old Seattle, Washington. Moved here in 2005. Obtained a job at Bothell. Was there for a few years. Worked on a lot of the on the back end, the Xbox 360 and the launch of that. So I got a lot of technical background, a lot of analytical stuff, problem solving stuff, program project management stuff, software. My hobbies are reading, writing, fishing, going wine tasting. And I guess the reason why I'm here is in 2012, May 1st, actually, 2012, I accidentally bought a haunted house.
Accidentally, I like it how you put it like that.
Yeah, I hope about that there purposely.
So Keith, obviously our paths have crossed in the past when I've listened to one of your lectures on the Bothell Hell House. So can you please go into detail on how you became to buy the house and how you then moved in and the first kind of activity that you experienced, please?
Yeah, so me and my girlfriend Tina had been a couple, but living in separate places. We've been together 2 years already. And this was sort of a little bit after our 2 year anniversary. We decided to live under one roof. And so we're looking online, looking at houses, places to live, and Bothell seemed okay, the city of Bothell. And lo and behold, this beautiful house emerges, right? It's a gorgeous house, single unit, dwelling unit, 2-story home, about 2,300 square feet. And so it just seemed like a perfect time to take our relationship to the next level, if you will. And we both fell in love with the house. We toured it, we met with the homeowner, and we put our bid for it. There were like other people bidding for the same house. And we were glad we won. I was ecstatic that we won. I had just been promoted to a manager role at a new healthcare company, so I was going out on two limbs. With my girlfriend and started a new position with the company. Fast forward, because we found this house about May of 2012, and then moved in May 1st of 2000. And I tell people, like I said, explain in my book. Of course, we didn't know it at the time, but we began experiencing activity on day one. And by day one, I mean, you buy a house, you move in the first day, you get the keys, and sign papers and all that stuff. Sort of running on a house high. We were very house high. Excited, it's May, it's spring, beautiful outside, the birds are chirping. And the homeowner gives us the keys and a bottle of wine, and eventually he leaves after showing us all the rooms again and stuff like that. But full disclosure, we have no kids, we have no pets. It's just us two in a big house, and it's empty. The power's not even on yet. So we reside in the living room downstairs. We're just talking about what we're going to do with the house and stuff. And I kid you not, all of a sudden, in the middle of me and Tina's conversation, we're sitting on the floor. There's no front. We're just talking, and we hear a kid cough. And it was very loud. And it paused our conversation because, number one, we're the only ones in the home, or we thought we were. And then we looked at each other like, was that a kid cough? And kid coughs, like all other stuff, it's very distinct. Okay? There's adult coughs, there's male coughs. women cough, kid cough. No, you're familiar with kid cough. And it sounded like it came from one of the rooms upstairs. However, we didn't get up to investigate. We weren't screening ghosts or Casper or anything because we thought with all the windows closed in the home, even with that, the noise had to have come from outside. I mean, there's obviously no kid. All right. And we just ignored it. Just shrugged it off. Like, okay, it sounded like a kid call, but okay, whatever. A few weeks after that, now we're moving in. Now movers are bringing stuff in. We're bringing stuff in, and now we're living in the home. So I immediately began noticing items missing. By that I mean my there's the key fob I use every day for my car, and there's the spare that I never use that I keep somewhere tucked away. And I remember one day I was going to retrieve another item, and I noticed my key fob that I never used was gone. And I thought that was weird because this is not something I gave the movers. This is something I walked over to the home in a glove box or whatever, and I never used it. And one thing about living by yourself for so long, you never lose stuff when you live by yourself because it's just you, right? I'm not one of those guys. I put something somewhere, I know where it's at all the time. I'm very habit forming. I put stuff in the same places always. So I was very disappointed in myself that this item was missing because I'm like, I messed that up. And then Tina comes to me a few days later about missing jewelry. Hey, you see my earring? Hey, you see my bracelet? And I'm like, no, I didn't even know these things existed. You told me. And so once again, we thought, okay, it's moving, things get shuffled around. They're eventually going to pop up, and whatnot. But they never did. And then we started noticing, in the midst of that, things that we didn't own appearing. And by that, I mean kid toys. And I say kid toys, I mean, and when I said appearing on the staircase, coffee table, kitchen counter, bathroom counter, hallway, little boy kid car toys, little girl kid jewelry. And they're always displayed out in the open. These are not things that you would find when you move into a new home unless you moved a large appliance. So, this fell back there behind the refrigerator years ago and nobody ever went to retrieve it. No, these are things out in the open. So we're like, is somebody coming in while we're asleep, daddling our property with kid toys? Because that ain't going to work, And so we thought for a while, like, okay, it's a prank, but that's a little bit bridge too far in our mind of a prank, But not having anything to go on, I got this security system installed for Tina's sake, for her peace of mind and mine, because we always found these kid toys in the morning hours. So I got a security system, house monitoring, to arm the house while we go to sleep to prevent that. But that didn't slow it down. Okay, then it became more weird. Like, okay, the ideas, I could tell you, Mango, some of the ideas we had was somebody coming through the hole of the floor, coming through the, just all these things, or the vent, or how they getting in here. So it wasn't making sense at that level. And then waking up, finding all the kitchen cupboards open, all of them, up, down, closet door in the kitchen, just wide open. Just nothing missing, nothing pulled out or taken out, as I later learned in other Poltergeist cases, but they're all neatly wide open. They go da around the whole kitchen. You know how kitchen cabinets are, and we're like, that's just weird. But
sure.
believe it or not, we're not screaming ghosts yet. We are not pulling that ghost card yet. Until one day, to where we finally had to pull the ghost card, was the day we were watching TV downstairs, shoulder to shoulder. And I remember when Tina moved in, she moved in with this 4-foot tall plant, artificial plant that we set by the entertainment center. Can't miss it. And we're just watching TV. And I'm so glad Tina was with me when I saw this and vice versa. And that's one of the, I guess, interesting things about this case. We witnessed a lot of phenomena together versus hey, let me tell you what I saw while you were gone. No, we witnessed a lot of things together. Uh, and this being the first one, where the plant darted up and did a spin and fell to the ground in our direction, fell toward us. Just out the blue, just no rhyme or reason or anything, like on cue or something. And we like, eyes wide, like, did that just happen? No earthquake, no tremor, no. I know Washington is an earthquake zone state, but nothing else whatsoever. And we looked at each other first, and then we walked toward the plant. And once again, not screaming ghost yet. We start rummaging through the leaves because we thought this has got to be a joke. This has got to be a remote control. This is before drone technology. Somebody did something. And so we thought we were on some, I guess, Big Brother TV show where somebody's monitoring us. Okay, sooner or later somebody's going to walk out the closet and balloons are going to fly, confetti is going to fly. And like, ha, you guys are all down a TV show. And, but that didn't happen. And when that didn't happen, then maybe an ounce of dread fell on me because then I think we got a ghost.
Oh, for sure, yeah. It's sort of like, I think my mind would be blown by that point.
Yeah, I think now it's starting to okay, and that's when I die. I'm like, okay, because now we're like 6 weeks in. Like, okay, that kid cough, but we didn't know. How did you tell you have a ghost in your home? We had no experience or brush with the paranormal prior to this. We had no knowledge of it. We never watched a lot of paranormal shows. I watch a scary movie every now, but those are scary movies. They're not paranormal. So we had no IQ of what paranormal is or was. So we went to the internet in my office and we typed in, how can you tell your house is haunted? I mean, there's got to be a website out there, right? How can you tell?
Did they put a picture of your house up, Keith?
That's probably it now. Yeah. Yeah, my house is probably the JPEG picture now, but when we went to the internet, and the internet was very informative because it says missing items. It said these are the top 5, top 10 things you can tell your house is haunted. Missing items, rearranged items appearing that neither one of you own, strange noises, okay, waking up and finding all your kitchen cabinet doors open. And if you even say kid cough, And so we were like, oh, but, there's 2 ways to look at a haunted house. You can look at it as Amityville, or you can look at it as Casper the Friendly Ghost. Okay? And up until that time, we're like, oh, kid cough. Oh, so it's a kid ghost. Okay, kid ghost. All right. What do? We type, how do you handle a kid ghost? And the internet said, well, you be very nice, be very gingerly, motherly, fatherly, put on a parental role. It does happen. Sometimes it may be a child or something passed away. We don't know. But you want to talk gingerly to it. You want to be, hey, how you doing? Stop that. Go into the light. Be at peace and all that stuff. And so we tried all those things. Because we're like, okay, we have a kid ghost, a little kid cough. It's interesting. It's not frightening now that we know this is what we have. And keep in mind, we don't know where this is going. And all Poltergeist, well, not all, but most Poltergeist cases start out like this. There's cases where people, oh, I got candy. The Poltergeist is giving me candy and chocolate. That's before the fire started, right? And so we thought, okay, kid ghosts, we can live with a third roommate if this is as far as it goes. This is it. And no, of course not. That's not, because after the plant levitated, came the loud bang, boom, 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 out of nowhere. You'd be having dinner, eating, or watching TV. Boom! And the first time you hear it, me and Tim are always at opposite sides of the house. I'm in my office, she's downstairs watching TV or cooking or something.
Did you ever try to identify any potential natural explanation for this occurrence?
As far as the banging or
Yeah. Yes.
Well, when we heard the loud banging, we rushed to the area that we thought the banging came from. And it's always 3 bangs, and there's no more bangs that afternoon. So you waiting for it again, but it doesn't happen again. Until 24 hours later, 48 hours later, it happens. And then you meet again. And then you're like, okay, go to the internet. How do you loud banging? All right, so we're like, hey, kid goes, stop the banging. That's not nice. We're trying to sleep. Something like that.
Yep.
And then a few days later, that might work. And then one day, a plant goes flying across the room. And then we're like, first time you hear, you don't know what it is till you go and see. You see a plant obliterated on the floor, dirt and everywhere. You're like, oh, the plant was over there. How did it get over here? And then, flying objects. And we're like, hey, kid goes, cut it out. Go into the light. Be nice. Now I'm starting to think a little bit differently because none of the things we're trying is working. And it seems we're the only ones being nice here. Okay? We have to clean up the mess. We have to respond to the loud banging. It's very inconvenient to clean up broken pottery, dirt and stuff and vacuums and all that. And it seems like somebody is throwing these things to get a rise out of us or to watch us do cleanup. And so I'm getting a little bit frustrated. Like I'm getting a little bit more forceful in my, hey, cut that out. And I advise them that's the direction they want you to go in. So they know what they're doing. We don't know what they're doing, but they know what they're doing. And at the same time, I'm branching out of, I'm not so much being trustworthy to the websites anymore because they're starting to get things wrong. So I'm like, what are the next steps? Well, you want to have your house blessed. You want to get somebody in and come in there and bless the house. And we did. We called churches and they came in and blessed the house. And that would quiet things down for a couple of days. And then it would be right back to throwing things, loud banging and stuff and all that. Then, well, you want to smudge. You want to do this and all that. And those things we did and tried and failed miserably at because the activity always ratcheted it up.
Did you get any professional advice with regard to the smudging, or did you just read up on it and then do it yourself?
Did it myself. And let me tell you, this is I think I wrote this in the Bothell Hell House. No, a coworker had advised me to smudge and sage. And I found a botanical store deep in the bowels of Seattle where I could buy sage. I didn't know what sage was. I knew the sage you cook with, but that's all I knew. So I went and bought a sage stick, yay long. It didn't come with instructions. But I was happy. I was so happy to try anything because I wanted to try it out. And then I went home. Tina wasn't home yet. She hadn't got home from work yet. And I went and I bought a lighter. And the first few times I'm lighting it, but it's not igniting or whatever. So I've been frustrated. And then it's lighting and it's smoldering, and I don't know what to do. So I'm like, okay, well, it looks like a wand. So maybe just go around and do this. And I kid you not, I'm going from room to room smudging and saying, get out of the house, leave. I'm saying it very peacefully. Leave, be at peace. And I started in the farthest room, working my way to the front door. I figured whatever's in here, I got to start at the end of the house so they have no refuge. And as each room I go through, each room, I'm corralling them out the door. Well, the two things I know I did wrong was I didn't have any windows open, which I learned you're supposed to have windows open while smoking. And number two, I did it alone, which is very dangerous to do. And so as I got out of my master bedroom and got to the landing, I didn't know if this was working or not. Is there some sort of sign I get? But the sign that I got was not what I wanted because as soon as I got to the landing where I can see my front door, I kid you not, the front door opened wide and went shoo and slammed shut. Shoo! And I was like, that was probably one of the first two, probably the second animations I've seen or manifestation other than the plant levitating, other than the bangs and whatnot of it physical, because that door opened by itself and slammed shut. And I was like, does that mean it just left? You know.
Hopefully.
Yeah, I would think
Well,
so.
well, here's the deal, because Tina hasn't come home yet. And once I saw the door, I was like, oh, it left. That's it. And then I stopped saving. And then Tina came home and I told her the story, and she was like, oh, all right. And then, like I said, a few days, no activity or nothing. But then a few days later, the plants started being thrown again, the loud banging. Um, and we told our friends, and we had friends come over. Interesting thing about our case is we would have friends over for dinner, and they would witness phenomena with their own eyes. By that I mean some of my friends' coworkers, because I watch Monday Night Football, saw the plants be thrown across.
Wow.
Some of them heard the loud bang. There's a chapter in my book one called The Housewarming Party, where we had friends of Tina's and mine over, couples, and all the women complained to Tina and me and to their husbands and boyfriends about something or someone was pulling their hair. Okay. All the women experienced hair being pulled. Everybody knew our house was haunted. Nobody came in unaware, but everybody was like, "You guys, yeah, whatever," you know. But so we told everybody, but they said, somebody just pulled my hair, or they had a shoulder tap. For me, I kept getting locked out of the backyard, the back door that leads to the backyard, because I was cooking, I was barbecuing, and they had to let me in. It became a joke so much that why is Keith getting locked out of his own house? It was funny, and I looked at Tina like, well, finally, when most of the people left around 2 a.m., there's only 2 people left in the home, Tina's best friend and her best friend's mother. Me and Tina are playing cleanup. We're cleaning up the house, shutting it down, and Tina's on the couch. Tina's friend Kim is on the couch, and she witnesses, because she's in a better peripheral than we are, a plant goes from left to right across her eyesight. She saw the whole thing. I heard it and saw in my peripheral spun around. Tina heard the noise, and Kim's mom heard the noise. And sure enough, the plant hit a wall, obliterated. And Kim had heard Tina's stories, but like I said, seeing is believing. And when she saw with her own eyes, she was now Team Tina. Because she was like, well, you told me your house was haunted, but you told me it was that haunted. And we're like, we told you stuff goes flying here. And her mom, being from Florida, from LA, but originally from New Orleans, very spiritual, said, oh, okay. And she advised us all to go to the other room. The more she said, how long have y'all been having this problem? We said, well, since day one. And she said, well, we're all going to go to the other room where the plant was thrown. We're all going to pray. And we're all going to get in a circle, hold hands, and we're going to pray together, and we're going to pray individually. She said, Keith and Tina, since y'all are the occupiers of the home, y'all go first. And what y'all want, y'all need to pray. When you pray, you need to pray what you want the spirits to do. Very firm and resound and honest in what you want them to do. And Tina, like, she's semi-crying, whatever. Like, I just want y'all to leave the house. I just want y'all to, And I'm the same way. I'm like, we just want y'all to leave, and, this is a home. We're going to make it a good home. Sorry for whatever bad experience you had prior to us coming, but we're not like that. So we did all that. Kim prayed. Kim's mom prayed. Then we all did a prayer together. I think it was the Lord's Prayer. And then the whole thing took about 5 minutes. And then we waltzed back into the kitchen, which is a few feet away. And I kid you not, as soon as you turn the corner, every kitchen cabinet door was wide open. Every drawer was pulled out. Every closet door was wide open. And I remember the first thing I did, because Kim's mom, very elderly, very, very senior, very elderly, she's like a Yoda to me. And I looked at her because I wanted to catch her face expression.
Oh, yeah, 100%, yeah.
And I looked at her, and her face expression told me where her mouth dropped open, because there's believing and there's believing. Okay?
With a capital B.
And I knew she was sincere in believing our story. I knew she was sincere in trying to offer us a remedy. But when she saw that, she was like, mouth dropped up. She said, I've never seen that.
Oh, wow. That's crazy.
Wow.
And she thought that I can only imagine a ride home with her and her daughter about what's in store for Keith and Tina. Because when I looked at, I did not see it sense from her about this. When I looked at her face, I did not sense from her that this was going to end well. You know?
Oh, for sure.
The doctor operates on you, and then he's like, he looks at his nurses like, we'll do what we're doing, but you know, it's. And I remember that, and that haunted me when I saw her face.
Yeah, Keith, would you say that you mentioned the kitchen a few times? Would you say that the kitchen was the most popular location where the activity was?
No, the kitchen, not even close. I could tell you the most popular, you can say that, or the most active room in the house was my office. Second place to that was the hallway. Third place was the master bedroom. And if you think about it, it sort of makes sense, because these are the areas that we are in the most of the time. When I'm home on my day-to-day, I'm mostly in my office. Kitchen is only for transitory purposes and eating and whatnot. Now, we did have a lot of activity in the kitchen. If you've seen the photos from the books and online, had a lot of activity in the kitchen. Most of it, though, we were not home, though, thank God.
Okay.
But when phenomena erupted, my office was pretty much ground zero. It is also central command. My office was my man cave. It was also the place where I did 99% of troubleshooting to rid our house of the activity. By that I mean, I installed cameras, motion detection cameras throughout the house, but the hub is the office. The computer's the office. The Wi-Fi is in the office.
So that would kind of seem to me like, yeah, because that's your epicenter, because that's where you're doing all your research, they're trying to maybe stop you going into that room, do you think?
Well, I say they tried to stop me from going in. They tried to make life hard for me to conduct troubleshooting, to remove them by the equipment manipulation, equipment malfunction, equipment destruction. Keep in mind let me make sure. 2 fires erupted in the office. The second fire in the Bothell home, not counting the Bible, was the poster catcher fire, which did considerable damage to electronic equipment. A few months after that was another fire where the computer monitors themselves caught on. So they set the monitors by means to,
Yeah. And you're a technical guy, so if that was a rational reason for that to catch fire, you should know that, right?
Well, not only that, but the fire department, because every fire we've had, the fire department responded, and they cannot determine root cause of the fires, which is spontaneous as far as poltergeist, albeit rare, it does happen. The fire is rarely determined as to what causes that, so it makes it so unknown and terrifying. Posters don't catch fire. There's no heat source next to a poster.
Correct.
No lamp, nothing. And that's what the fire department and the fire marshal made 2 visits to the home to try to determine that. I know I can't tell them what ghost is doing it, so I let them in. I want to be proven wrong. Prove me wrong, because me and Tina never knew all the activity that we had, and it's getting worse and worse. We don't know the circumference of the activity. We don't know what's the most epic activity that's going to happen. Then they're going to start dialing it back. All we know is ratcheting up higher and higher and higher. If you'd have told me from the kid cough to the poster fire, I'm like, what? No, we don't even know that's even possible. It set fires at will. Yeah, it did. Yeah. I wouldn't believe you would have told me, but When you experience it, it comes out the blue. It comes out of left field. You're caught unaware. You're sleeping. You're taking a shower, and you got a fire to deal with. And they always catch you when you're most vulnerable, taking a shower, sleeping. So the office was also, and then the hallway. The hallway being that, if you've seen the picture, this is where we a lot of times were advised to lay out our religious paraphernalia, the Bible on the bookshelf, candles, sage stick, and they would just run in there and ransack that hallway. Okay, throw things. I'd be outside. The hallways were outside my office, so I could be typing on my computer, and items would be thrown in the hallway or thrown from the hallway into my office, or vice versa. The hallway was also the place where I saw the apparition, the female apparition. Summer 2012 was the first time I saw the Gray Lady. There's a chapter in my book called The Gray Lady. And she's called the Gray Lady because she's the Gray Lady. This is about July, August in 2012. I'm typing in my office on my computer. We know our house is haunted at this time, but it's not. Up until this stage, it's just been the loud banging and the occasional flower pot being thrown, and lights going off and on by themselves. And Tina's taking a bubble bath. So I'm typing and all of a sudden I hear it click. And as soon as I hear it click, my lights go off. Click, lights off. I'm sitting in the dark. So I turn toward the doorway, like anybody would, because that's where the light switch is, by the doorway. Thinking I'm going to see Tina. Now, me and Tina have made an agreement, because we live in a haunted house, that we are not going to play practical jokes on each other. Okay? Right. We don't need to play practical jokes on each other. We got a full-time whatever doing it. Question of the door, thinking Tina was going to be there, and I was ready to admonish her, like, Tina, we told you we're not going to be doing jokes like that. And I said, this would be perfect for a movie, because as soon as I turn toward the door, there's a woman standing there. That's not Tina. Okay? So dial it back a bit. Think about it. There's only two people living in the house with you. And your significant other, you know where they are around the house. You know how they look. And you turn toward the direction expecting to see them. All right? And it's not them. There's another woman standing at my door, plain as day. She's 100% gray. And I'm like, I don't know what to do, because I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Because this hasn't happened, but this is new. And the woman and I, as soon as I look at her, she turns sideways, and she tries to go to the room to the left of my room, to the door, which is the washroom. She's not trying to open the door to go in like you and I would. She's trying to go through the door. Okay? And she can't disappear. She can't fade in and out. She can't disappear fully through the door. She can go halfway in, and she's very stilted, it's like a force field repelling her or something. Weirdest thing ever that you see. And this happened all so fast, and then finally she just gives it back to me and darts down the hallway. I still don't know what I'm looking at. I give chase. I'm more running on instinct than anything. I don't know what I just saw.
Yeah.
Okay? I get up thinking, my brain's like, hey, somebody came through the front door and made it all the way up to your bedroom and turned the light off. You're going to see them go out the door when you turn the corner. That's what my brain's hoping happens.
Yeah.
Okay? But no, I turned the corner, gone. Nothing, gone. All right? No noise at the front door, nothing. So I then go into the master bedroom and veer right and go, and I'm not looking for Tina to see, was it Tina? I know it wasn't Tina. Okay? I want to tell Tina what I just saw. So I come to Tina, and she's in the bathtub taking a bubble. I'm like, Tina, I just saw it. And Tina's like, saw what? And I'm like, I just saw it. Because up until now, me and Tina have heard noises, kitchen cabinet doors, toys, and all this stuff, all that phenomenon. but we never had, no pun intended, we never had a face to the phenomenon. Okay? We never had a mascot, if you will. Something we'd be like, hey, you know, you can say there's still hope of a little bit of plausibility explanation.
Yeah.
Okay, to what, even though it'd be hard to, but you can still convince me. Ain't no convincing that.
No, 100%.
Seeing and she's like, I said, yeah, I saw it. I said she was great, and she was not translucent. She was full bodied. She was solid. When she walked, she made the tap. You know, it wasn't like she was hovering. No, she walked like you and I walk. The physics that apply to you and I when we're walking and navigating the hallway applied to her. I heard the noise. You know, the pitter-pat, the thumps. And I was just blown away. Now, it would be another year and a half, almost 2 years before I saw that exact apparition again.
Wow.
But this time she was all white. Okay? And, you know, there's multiple theories. I have some of my own of why she went from gray to white, full-bodied. And then to make it even more interesting, you guys are going to love this, is both apparitions, the 3 times that I saw her, the 2 times in the hallway. First time I saw her, it was before 2012. The second time I saw her was September 2014. Between those 2 times, I had not made contact with the previous tenants yet, especially in 2012. I would not contact the previous tenants who lived in the house a few years before we did, 2008, 2009. Until August of 2014. When I found out from the previous tenants that they had activity themselves in 2008, 2009 when they lived in the home, and then I met the mother who I contacted online, the apparitions that I saw looked like her. Okay? I didn't tell her that. But what she told me when I contacted her, because her and her family moved out of the house in 2009, she said the house was a living hell for them. She said she tried to commit suicide 3 times in the house.
Wow.
She said she was very depressed in the house. She said she was raped in the house. She said her husband was an Alaskan fisherman, so he was gone all the time. And she was there with the 3 kids. The youngest son's room was my office. She said he had a weird, rare case of meningitis that he almost died. Seattle Children's Hospital he almost died several times being treated at Seattle Children's Hospital. She told me, and I ain't went public with Tina with this yet, because I was seeing them too. She said, the youngest son, the one who had meningitis, saw shadowy figures at the corner of his eyes, and he still sees them today. In 2014, where they live now. And I said, well, what room was he in? And it was my office. And at that time, I started seeing the shadowy figures hover outside my office, but I didn't tell Tina because I didn't want to spook her. I didn't know what to make of it. But when she confirmed that to me, and then she said, the house destroyed our marriage, and it did because they had gotten divorced and had just got back together by the time I contacted her. She was very spooky and thought it weird that it's weird that you contacted me now when me and my husband just got back together and the house broke us up. But she told me the kitchen cabinet, they woke up with the kitchen cabinet doors open all the time. They had pitter-patter footsteps, electrical issues, shadowy figures. The TV stations would turn by themselves. She said they had a live-in nanny. She said one time they were out of town and it was just a nanny and the kids. And she said the nanny heard loud banging and loud noises, and when she went downstairs to investigate, she saw all the kitchen cabinet doors wide open. The nanny took all 3 kids and drove to Yakima, Washington. Which I've been to Yakima, Washington. It's about a 3-hour drive. And she drove them there. And now this 2012, 14, I'm in the house and I'm seeing this apparition, especially the second time. And I'm like, her name was Rhonda. I'm like, that's Rhonda. That's her. Face, everything. And like I said, true story. Rhonda successfully committed suicide September of 2016. She walked into a moving train in Montana. All those years, but she said she never recovered from that Bothell house. She said something about that house. It was like a gray cloud formed above it, and it destroyed her family. And we had maintained contact because I would check in on her. She was still somewhat depressed, but she was getting better. But she had 4 suicide attempts in the home that I was able to verify. And I put those reports in my second book, the attachments, Poltergeist of Washington State, of the police response, the ambulance response to the house in 2008, 2009, and what they wrote when they came to the home. This has nothing to do with Keith and Tina. Keith and Tina weren't even dating yet. Yeah. I didn't meet Tina until 2010. This hell was going on in 2008, 2009. That's why I always tell people, this case is infallible, debunk proof. Because you can always say, oh, Keith and Tina, okay. Then what about 2008, 2009? You tell me lightning strikes twice?
Yeah.
Lightning never strikes the same place twice. Okay.
Did you ever notice like a pattern of like a certain time, or if you were a certain like activity was happening? Did you notice more stuff would occur, or like a certain time of day more activity would happen more?
Yes and no. I noticed, especially because keep in mind, we had activity in 2012, and the activity we had in 2012 compared to the activity 2014, 2015, are night and day. Okay, you could ask me which one I prefer. I would prefer 2012 if I had to choose. But 2013, we had no activity. There was a time, I want people to understand because this is important. There was a time in the home, I was in the house 4 years, where the activity did stop and stopped for about a year and 2 months. It was an abrupt stop. No rhyme or reason, just like when it started. There's no, hey Keith, we're leaving, goodbye. No, it just wakes up one day and you start realizing, oh, it's 2 months and we haven't had anything. Or it's 3 months we haven't had anything. Well, when it came back in 2014 and stayed longer, yeah, there were certain things that would seem to set it off. And by that I mean, because now me and Tina, we're being controlled. We're waking up irritable. Okay, sleep deprivation is a to this day is a form of torture. Okay, the military or wherever will tell you that, and it's because you're tired and you become aggravated. And so we're aggravated and we're tired. And why we're aggravated and tired, why we're having sleep deprived, because we're responding to fires. We're responding to loud bangs while we're sleeping. We're responding to, hey, cut that out, to sheets being yanked off you in bed. I have to go out and maintain a daily life of work as though Tina. Poltergeists don't care about that, okay? They're going to torture you whether you're asleep or awake. And then, so I'm irritable because I'm at home, or hey Tina, did you call the priest? Did you remind the priest? Oh, I forgot. Oh, why'd you forget? Well, I was busy at work. Well, you told me you would do it. I'm busy at work. And now we're, yeah. All right? And now we're not talking to each other because we're mad. She's mad, I'm mad. We're doing this in the house, mentally. And the poltergeist sees on that. And by that I mean, you can be sleeping, boom, fire, wall writing, all this stuff. They slam the door on Tina and turn the lights off while she's taking a shower. She's, I gotta respond to that. I gotta remove dark. And then what happened? I turned the light on, And same thing with me. Tina was away from the house when the poster caught fire, and I was in the house by myself. Well, I couldn't get out the house because the door was like, all of a sudden the lock wouldn't work. I couldn't get out of my own house. The door was like something was holding me in. Okay, I had to call 911 and call her, turn back around. The house is under attack. So certain things seem to trigger the activity, but the baseline is always there. Okay. But when there's arguments, then things I notice objects are heavier, get thrown. There's a concussion in the house. There's a electrical magnetic type interference. One of the investigators picked up on it. The house was humming. You have to walk out of the house and walk back in to hear the humming. Yeah, it was just very electrical. Even the fires that we see, I mean, I tell people, we all know poltergeists can mimic voices. They can mimic sounds. But if ask any poltergeist survivor, even their own voice, of hearing their own voice, there's always that 1% that makes it seem, okay, that sounds like me, but I can still hear a little artificial in there. You know what I mean? I can still feel a bit of artificial noise. Like, so people talk about the piano sounds. We've heard the piano crash sounds, okay? And you really have to hear it to believe it, because I've read other cases of, oh, you just hear a piano crack. And I remember one day Tina blew up my phone and she said, I ran out the house. Why? I heard a piano crash. It came from upstairs. And she said it was just loud and thunderous, but it sounded like a piano. And she said it was a little bit off, but it was still. So that was weird. And then the fires that I would see, even though I'm seeing with my naked eye, they're little real fires. Okay, they're fires, but they look different. You know, they look something ain't right about them. You know, the objects after the fire is extinguished, it's incinerated or burnt. It has weird burnt marks. It just looks weird. It just looks like, it's burnt, but it just, yeah. So it's very puzzling. There's an artificial electronic something behind it, even the sounds, voices, and even the EVP and all that is very interesting.
Yeah, because I've got a firefighter background, Keith. So yeah, if there's a fire in an apartment, you can pretty much say where the source of the ignition started. So yeah, when you say that it was weird burn marks, what do you mean? So from that kind of that way.
Well, I mean, like I said, fire to be, you don't have to be rocket science to know. Some of the fires we have, like the burnt Bibles, okay? The burnt Bibles are in places, and they're incinerated, right? But there's no smoke or fire residue anywhere near the Bible, except on the Bible. And there's a bookshelf above the Bible, and there's objects. You know, I would think heat would cook some of the items around it.
For sure.
To the naked eye, or not to it would be visible. You would see, and it would just be like, it would look like, okay, this Bible burnt somewhere else, and they brought it back and set it here. But that's impossible because we were in the house when it caught fire in the first place. Okay, and even the poster fire, even the firemen, when they responded, they were like scratching their heads. They was like, I can see them trying to do the equations in their heads about the poster. I'm like, there's no heat source. There's no, and they're looking for Occam's razor to apply at anything. Give me anything to where we can say started this fire with this poster. And the room and me are not giving them that. Nothing behind it. Yeah, no, there's no heat lamp. There's no, well, it's April. Who needs a heat lamp in April? But so they were like, we don't know. But okay.
Did they ever try to point the finger that you did it?
No, they didn't. Because, like I said, I was very terrified when I called them. And I had extinguished the fire when they got there before they got there. No, I never got to the point where they looked at us as like some arsonists or whatever. People were very sincere trying to problem solve our problem. And so they were grateful that I extinguished the fire. They were grateful that I called. But they were very curious as to what caused it and if it happens to get called again. Of course, it never happened again. But it was just weird for the time period that they're there. I mean, they went downstairs. And I understand why they have to do it. They looked at the fuse box in the garage. Let's go look at the fuse box. And I'm like, why? The lightning shoot from the fuse box. But so I get what they were trying to do. I felt sorry in a sense because I want to tell them, this is the ghost, man. This is the no. Then if I would have said that, then I'd be like, okay, this guy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But I can't tell them that. But if they would ask me, they're like, oh, you're the guy, because right before the activity came back in 2014, January of 2014, I had a bad fall coming down the stairs. This is when there was no activity, because we just left 2013. I come in and I had a bad fall. It was bad. And upon falling down, I broke my right patella tendon, my kneecap, which requires surgery to repair. And that day, the fire department responded to my injury. Tina called them because my knee was the size of a bowling ball, and I couldn't bend it. So she called them, and they helped me into the ambulance. But it was the same. What was so interesting was fast forward maybe 4 or 5 months later, the same firemen who responded to my knee fall were the ones who responded to my post fire. So they remembered me, and they're like, "Oh, we came to when you broke your knee." That's how small Bothell is, say fire department. And I'm like, yeah. They said, "Whoa, man, you're a lucky guy. I want to go to Vegas with you one day." Because they were laughing about, number one, the fall I had. Now I was back up walking and running again, evidently. And now I had this fire in my office, and I put it out myself and didn't burn the house down or whatever. So they just thought it interesting. And lo and behold, they didn't know it at the time. They're the ones that gave me the idea. It took about a year and a half for me to run with the idea, to call down to the Snoqualmie County Records Office. Because in America, it's called the Freedoms of Information Act. You can retrieve information. And I asked for all the 911 calls to the house. No other paranormal team, including Ghost Adventures, never thought to do that. But I did. And when I did, that's why I got the county records, not my records, the county's records of Rhonda's attempted suicides. Which I always believed her. But in my mind, I was like, okay, if they responded to it, then they would have to have documented that. Especially if they took her with them, and they did. And so it was a relief to me to have her story and the verifiable paper proof side by side, and the sheriff's deputy's notes taking. And I'll tell you one story about what he wrote, because I've seen a lot in my Bothell house that scared me. This scared me because I know what she and the deputy were going through. Okay, so this was just sometime in 2000 and 2009. And anybody can read this because it's included in my 2 books. The PDF is. A sheriff deputy responds to the Bothell house of a woman trying attempted suicide. Both neighbor and husband, the husband, Rhonda's husband, have not heard from her in a while. So they're doing what is called a wellness check. Okay. The sheriff pulls up in front of the house. This is what he wrote in his notes. Pulls up to the house, and he walks up to the front door and knocks, and no response. He can hear from the garage, which is to his right, a woman screaming. And she's saying over and over and over, "Why don't y'all just leave me alone?" Okay. So he rings the doorbell again, nothing. And this woman's screaming, "Why don't you leave me alone?" He then proceeds from the front door and walks to the side of the house to the backyard. Okay. And then he gets to the backyard. He's on the backyard patio, the same patio I would be barbecuing on a few years later. And he sees a mattress stuff through the glass sliding door. Weird. Okay. Weird. All right. There's a mattress stuffed through the whole carved out sliding glass. Okay. That's weird. Okay. If I'll be like, back up. But okay. This guy still hearing this woman screaming out of the garage, removes the mattress, enters the home. Okay, now he's in the living room, the infamous living room of the Bothell Hell House. And he's looking around, he doesn't see anybody. And as he's making his way further into the house, Rhonda comes out of the garage, and now she's into the kitchen. Once you step out the garage, you're immediately in the kitchen area. And she's bleeding profusely on both arms. Bad. And she's holding a screwdriver. Rhonda took a screwdriver and drilled cut lines through her arms, and she's bleeding profusely. The police officer tells her or screams, "Put down the screwdriver," because she's walking toward him. She's deranged and all that. "Put down the screwdriver, ma'am." He gives her a few tries, and she doesn't respond or whatever. He tases her. Okay? So this is, and that, how many seconds that took? Imagine that violence, that darkness, okay, is getting absorbed into the walls, into the ceilings of the house. All right? And he tases this woman. And she falls to the ground, blah, blah. He calls for psychiatric people to come and pick her up and all that stuff. And then he says in his report, there's nobody else in the house. She's screaming, "Why can't y'all just leave me alone?" He writes that there's nobody else in the house. And so I read down, who was Rhonda talking to? Because she was by herself. Now, go back to when I saw the part about the mattress plugged into the door. I knew why that was when I heard the police officer wrote that down. Because Rhonda a few months told me about an episode where she was in the kitchen. Rhonda's a smoker. She went outside to have a cigarette and she closed the sliding door. Her baby in a high chair. She had baby formula boiling on the stove. Okay? She put the baby in the high chair by the sliding door. She left the sliding door open, as any mother would, right?
Yep.
When she turned to walk back into the house, this is Rhonda, the sliding door slammed shut on her and locked her out of the house. Rhonda is now locked outside her house in the backyard with a baby looking at her clear as day, wailing now, with baby formula boiling on the stove. You know what any mother's about to do. Rhonda said she found the biggest rock and busted that glass window to get back into the house. Okay? And that let me know, okay, she never got that replaced. The time frame for when this happened and when she was suicidal had to be, I don't know, days or weeks, because that's the only reason her remedy was, because they didn't have any money. She told me, we didn't have any money. Was to stuff a mattress through that plug. Now you're really gonna love this. Talk about when we moved into, I remember when we first toured the house, me and Tina with the homeowner. And like I said, lovely house, we fell in love with it. And I remember we got to the sliding door and I looked at the guy, because I'm from Texas. I'm like, hey, the screen is missing. What happened to the screen? So most sliding doors, you have the glass sharp and the screen. Because how you want to open the glass and the screen? And he said, "Oh, the screen is went missing. It's just gone. But if you feel you want one, you can buy one and then take it out of your rent, and that's fine." And I was like, "Oh, there's no screen." So all that stuff, when you piece it together, you form a timeline. And like I said, and then you fast forward to Keith and Tina waltzing in May 2012, happy go lucky, I love you, honey, I love you too. And you have that a woman took a screwdriver. I ain't talking about a knife. Okay, knife is a sharp edge, probably cut rather. A screwdriver that takes some power and some will. Both arms. That had to
Yep.
hurt. That had to have hurt.
Yeah.
Blood profusely, being tased, being hauled out of there on a cart or gurney or whatever, and all that stuff. And the house is just. And then here we come 5 years later, not unaware whatsoever. And the fact that Rhonda, may she rest in peace, walked in front of a moving train on a clear summer day is just, like I said, nobody, yeah, Bothell Health.
That's crazy. So, from a medical kind of point of view, a lot of people are going to say that she had mental health issues. Yeah,
Of
yeah,
course you did.
yeah. So, with the previous, you've just been talking about Rhonda being one of the previous residents. After you moved out, what about people that moved in after you left? Did they experience the same kind of thing too?
No, well, I will say no, but I'm going to put an asterisk next to that. Number one, I have not purposely reached out to the people who live in the house now. I do know the people who live in the house now have been living there since I left, a husband and wife. I have not been snooping around asking for anything because I don't want them to have activity. I didn't want to put the idea in their mind that they could have activity. They know the house is haunted. They or was or whatever. To what degree is on them, but they know. It's not hard to find out, but they know. But I have not asked or sent somebody to ask in my stead. And the reason being, uh, aside from I don't want them to have activity. Number two, if there is activity, it's going to have to be organic in the sense of we have activity, but also I tell people also you have to understand the Bothell house. There's always it's a haunted house in the sense of people, two families minding around that were haunted while living. Okay, and a haunting can cause you to have mental issues. Poltergeist. It's a wonder why I'm vertical right now. I should be crazy for Cocoa Puffs. But between Rhonda and us, meaning me and Tina, were three other families. I have not talked to them. I have not, the trail grew cold to find them. So I don't know if they had activity or not. One of the theories surrounding poltergeist phenomena, and there are other cases where famous poltergeist cases where people live in a house today and the people 20 years ago had activity. People today are like, oh, we were fine. There seems to be a association. Call it synergy, frequency, or whatever what you will. Not everybody's going to have activity. Now, I will say, and Steve Mara, parapsychologist Steve Mara, who did investigate the house, lived in it for 2.5 weeks, and then Don Phillips and Kyle, he has a theory or understanding that there's possibly low-level activity in that house or other people's houses. Because we did find out other homes near the area were having considered low-level activity, but people shrug it off as just one of those things. I could tell you for me, what sort of got me in trouble, maybe I'm wired differently, is because if I leave a room and I leave it with the lights on and I come back with it off, I know I didn't turn it off. Outside of the light bulb blowing out, which it could happen, all right, but if I turn the switch on again and the light is on, I'm going to be like, wait a minute, I know I left it on. Same thing with the television. Or you sit your keys over here and they're over there. We go through so much of our day to where we're just like, you know. What got me in trouble was I start buying cameras like I know I left that light on. Okay? And so I buy a camera who records me while I'm through my daily activities. And then all of a sudden that phenomenon don't happen anymore. I'm like, oh, it don't happen anymore. Okay? But what does happen? The camera gets turned around. Or the SD card is missing. Or it's unplugged. So I go, hey Tina, did you mess with the camera? No, I ain't touch the cameras. Tina don't know nothing about tech. Don't want to. Okay? And so I go buy another camera to watch the camera that was unplugged. Okay. Because I'm like, it becomes a game of cat and mouse, and now the spirits are gaining the attention that they want, and they found somebody they can pick on. Like, oh, look at him, that idiot. He's going to buy another camera. Look at him. That's what they think. Because I would think the same thing. He doesn't know he should stop right now and just let bygones be bygones,
Yep.
If we take something, just forget about it. Just forget about it. But no, I'm like, no, that was mine. It took it. It's gone. I want it back. I'm gonna harass the house, go buy cameras to figure this riddle out, and then the same time they go, well, let's give them more of the same, more of the same,
Wow.
And then one of the EVPs Steve caught, I'll tell you this real quick, was, because I didn't know, but one of the EVPs he caught, Steve and Dawn, was, they said they didn't like cameras. They said the infrared hurts their eyes. The invisible things we can't see with the naked eye.
Yeah.
Our spectrum light is different. But I never thought about that. I'm like, oh. So if you were hurting my eyes with all the cameras you brought into the house, imagine all these zigzag lines visible throughout the house, and that hurt your eye. Yeah, I might knock a few cameras over. Yeah, I might kick something. Yeah, okay. So yeah, it started making sense to me that way.
So you invited the scientific establishment of parapsychology to come and investigate?
Yeah, how I found them was because at that point, Tina and I had broken up, and Tina had moved away or out of the house. Our relationship ended, sadly, and I was contemplating leaving, but I did not want. I felt it not fair for me and Tina and whoever came to this house after us to not have proper information. Something's here, and if I leave now, Ghost Adventures is going to get the last word. And I know there's something here. So I started spending countless hours downtown in the Seattle Library reading up on any Poltergeist book I could find. I never heard of the term Poltergeist. Okay. I got it taught to me. But other cases I started reading about how difficult it is to investigate a Poltergeist home. It is really difficult. So the fact that Ghost Adventures left empty-handed, why did that catch so many people off guard? Because they were only there 5 hours, and you can spend a week in a home and not get nothing. It's not really anything bearing against the house occupants. It's just timing. But Steve Merisdale kept coming up in the conversations or the books I was reading, as with other people. And I contacted them all. He responded. And I knew he was in the UK. And I just very genuinely started sending him emails of what was happening. He replied back. And he asked a lot of questions. And we did this for like 8 months. And then he said, yeah, okay, this is interesting. We'd like to come and investigate. And I said, well, on one condition, you have to live in the home. I'm not having people come to my house and do a few hours and go leave and come back. I think to get what you really need out of this home, you don't have to live there. He said, why wouldn't we? Of course we're going to live there. We're going to park ourselves in your house for a week or two. And they're like, well, we're in agreement. They'll come on down. And that's what they did. They lived in the home, had a room to themselves, had to brush their teeth, shower, bathe like everybody else does, and were able to witness phenomena with their own eyes versus all this constant leaving. Oh, we're here, we're going to go back, we'll be back tomorrow. And any ghost is going to, not do anything with that. But so, yeah, and I'm glad they did. He brought Nick Kyle the second time. He had his own room, he witnessed phenomena. So yeah, and that's why they were able to, as a totality of over 400 or 500 EVPs.
Wow, that's
Class
crazy.
A, Class B, class, the other ones. This is Class A to Class B ones, and they captured. That blew my mind when I had to rehear the stuff, and it all made sense to me because I'm like, people like, man, it's just like house is never that. Your house, Keith, if everything you say is true, everything you tend to say is true, your house has to be the most active house in history. And I'm like, well, I don't know other houses, so I can't say it's the most active house in history. I can just tell you it's just active. You make that determination. And what I tell you happened. And when it happened, it did happen. So in 2014, from about April to, give or take a week or two, from April to December, we had activity almost every day. Okay? There's a crescendo, there's a bell curve, and I have a graph and I can show anybody every day. It was that frequent. Now, depending on when you come in on the activity, you could be coming on the upswing. You're probably going to get rewarded with a lot of phenomena. That's what paranormal teams did. They didn't know what to do with it, but they got rewarded. Or if you're coming down on the bell curve, you're probably going to be coming on the end of the phenomena. And then you're probably not going to get much. Okay? But it's going to come again. And then that happened for the entire year of 2014. The wall writings, the black oil, the black tar, all that stuff. Everybody, it looks like spray paint. Oh, it looks like spray paint. Regardless of what it looks like, it happened. If I'm a poltergeist for history that I've read, write with crayon, write with lipstick, write with sharp.
Were you able to depict what they were or what they meant, like the writings on the wall?
Well, interesting about some of the writings on the wall, or the latter part, was the Native American symbols. Okay, and the upside down man. I don't know if you see the picture of it. It's an upside down stick figure of a man. And I knew right away when I started seeing that. That came out the blue. That started happening in August, September, October of 2014, when we started seeing these upside down figures in my office. And it started off with one, then two, then three, and then all the walls, including the ceiling, had it. And I remember one day I was just looking at it. I was just looking at the upside, and I was like, Google upside down stick figure. Okay? And hit enter. And while I submit to these Native American websites that look just like that, I'm like, aha! Oh, okay. And you can, any high schooler can look at that, and it looks like calligraphy. It looks like pictography. And so I said, well, what does that mean? What does that mean? And the websites, like I said, that symbol when it's upside down means a man has died, and it's only used either when a man has been murdered or has died from a disease like smallpox. Okay, and so that's a breadcrumb, right? The question answers the question, but it creates more questions. Oh, smallpox, man has died. Well, did anybody die in the house? We ruled that out. I can find no record of anybody died in the house. Rhonda was raped in the house, but nobody died in the house. Well, what about underneath the house? Okay, we go look for that. We can find no record, meaning directly underneath the house. But hold on. There were Native Americans who lived in the Pacific Northwest, Bothell included, Snohomish County included, who did die from smallpox. It was 500 to 800. They gave the year and when they died. And they died of smallpox, and they were put in mass graves. And to make it even worse, the Native Americans were purposely denied the vaccine to smallpox. So I was able to find evidence of that. And so I was like, all right. But What about the black oil? What's that? Why wasn't that a blue upside down bed or a red or so? I chiseled a piece of the black oil, because my coworker, who I did not know was at the time, my job had a lab, and he saw my story on the news, and I was at the coffee machine one day. He said, "Hey, I saw your house on TV." And I was like, "Oh, yeah."
Yeah, about that.
He said, "Oh, your house is haunted?" I'm like, "Yeah." He said, "What's that stuff?" And I'm like, "I know it's crazy, right?" He said, "You know what it is?" I'm like, "No." He said, "Hey, I got a lab upstairs. If you bring it up to my lab, I might be able to tell you what it is." And my eyes lit up like, "What? What are you talking about? What are you talking about?" He said, "Hey," because his department tests, because F5, I work for F5, they test all the metals or the paint on the metals that we put on our products. So he was telling me, we sell our product all over the world, and we pay people to make our products elsewhere, and we have to make sure they're not using forbidden materials, because if customs finds out or any country regulatory agency finds out, we get fined. So anybody who makes stuff for us ships it back to the U.S. and we have to test the metals. And I'm that guy. And so I went home excited and chiseled a piece off the door and brought it to him the next day. And sure enough, he took me up to his room in his lab, and he pulled out this thing, looked like a Star Trek gun. It's called an XRF gun or something. And I put the thing on the table, and he stabbed it with the nose, and it pulls up the materials on the screen. And I remember the first time he did it, he was like, "Oh, that's weird. That's interesting." He said, "There's no metals on this." Because he's thinking it's paint, like I'm thinking, And then he said, "It's all organic." I'm like, "Organic?" He said, "Yeah, it's coming back. Everything, all the material is organic." Now, he wrote down all the materials that he found, and we were not able to make heads or tails as to what this stuff was, other than he said, "It's not paint." And I was like, "Aha, good." So people are like, Keith and Tina, y'all painted, y'all about painted the story. I did that. So I was like, "Aha, so it's not painted." No, I don't know what it is. But I took the materials and I started calling the art galleries. I said, "Hey, look, if I gave you this, what would you?" And I showed them the picture of the wall right. I said, what would you make that?" And they said, "Oh, that's bone black." I'm like, "What is bone black?" He said, "Bone black is incinerated buffalo or bison bone. It's one of the oldest forms of black paint." Light bulb. I was like, "What?" Well, yeah, it's one of the Native Americans use it for calligraphy and pictography. I said, "Well, how do you make bone black?" He said, "Well, you take buffalo bones and you incinerate it to an extreme temperature, and it produces its own black, powdery, coal-like substance, as well as its own binding agent. And then you have your own pictography. You've created an organic form of black paint. And once you apply it, because it has its own binding agent, it's very difficult to remove or paint over." And my mind goes, "What?" And so all these things start coming in. I'm like, "Oh, okay." Yeah, buffalo bison bone.
So, Keith, you mentioned about that oil or paint or whatever you want to call it being from Native American origin. Did you actually do any research to find out if there was any settlements on the ground before modern technology built everything up?
Well, I'm not able to find locally any proof that Native Americans, meaning that house or that neighborhood. And the reason why is because record keeping for Snohomish County, state of Washington, really did not begin to the early 90s, early 1900s. And for that specific area, really 1920. There was really no good record keeping. However, I can tell you, since living here in Bothell, Pacific Northwest, like where you are, I'm pretty sure, occasionally when new development comes in and they break the ground and earth to build whatever, they will encounter at times Native American civilization that nobody knew. Whoa! We didn't know this was here. And then the construction has to stop. A no other team has to come in to investigate and make sure there's no bodies under there. They're not disturbed. So there's been recent laws passed to that effect. And Bothell, if you go walking, Bothell's a walking, jogging community. There are places you can go walking and jogging off the trail, and you will pass by cemeteries of both settler and Native American. Okay? They're just fenced off or cordoned off. Because back then, people in the New World, people just buried their loved ones in their backyard. Or had a makeshift cemetery 50 yards from the house. A picket fence around. This is Cliff. This is Aunt Ethel. This is where you're gonna be. That's just how they did it back then. So those are still there. Nobody's gonna unearth that and move them to a new cemetery. They're gonna we're never gonna mess with this part of the land again. And so same thing with Native Americans. Do I think there's something underneath the ground of the Bothell house? Probably not. But I don't think that it needs to be for a house to be active. Because I kid you not, the whole area in that area, the Bothell neighborhood, the neighborhood that Bothell House is in, is called the Timbers neighborhood. The reason why they call it the Timbers neighborhood because there used to be trees galore. And the timber cut them down and moved houses in. It's about 300 to 400 housing units. But I tell you what, once again, this story was brought to me after I moved out by somebody who still lives in that neighborhood. And this is for any paranormal investigator listening to this or will listen to this, you should take this to heart. This is an opportunity to learn something because he calls me one day. He said, hey, I'm reaching out to you because we're friends to this day. He says, I had to leave my work to go home because my motion alarms went off. He works for Comcast or Xfinity. And I had to go home because it detected an intruder. So I went home. But when I got there, it was already a sheriff's car parked in my driveway because they respond to a burglary in progress.
Cool.
And so he walks up to the driveway and the officer's there and they talk and the officer's like, well, it looks like your house is okay. Nobody's broken in or nothing. And then my friend's like, yeah, it probably just went off. It just probably went off or whatever, but nobody broke in. And like I said, the officer volunteered this. They said, this neighborhood, we get more false reports, false trip alarms in any other neighborhood in Bothell. He said, really? All the time. This neighborhood, ever since this neighborhood was built, So it's almost baked in. When we have to arrive, we always sort of, amongst themselves, the officers, try not to coax themselves to being nonchalant when responding.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. Oh, because they're like, timbers. Yeah, okay. No, they have to come and do deals all the time. But he said, I'm just letting you know, take whatever it's worth. I kind of do coming here to be a false. So we get up all these houses all the time.
Wow.
He emailed me with, dude, he's like, yeah,
Did you find that your neighbors experienced similar events? And if they did it compare to yours?
Well, that's why I was going with this. I'm glad you asked that because the two houses, the houses next to us.
Yep.
When the investigators went to go interview them, and when the neighbors talked to us voluntarily once they knew our house was haunted, start telling us, and they told the investigators, because we didn't have pets, but they did, that their pets in their house do not go to any of the rooms closest to our house. They don't do that.
Wow.
Some of them walk their dogs through the neighborhood. And so our dogs will not go in your lawn. Never. Both houses to the left and right of that says that. I remember when we first moved in, like I said, the precursors were always there. This was like day 2 of moving in. I had my best friend with me. We were moving my bed in. 2 things happened that day. Well, 3 things, I'll tell you. And this was before the levitation of the plant, but after the kid calls. Me and my best friend are moving our bed upstairs to the master bedroom. It's a winding staircase. And we come down and we get to the first floor of the living room, having delivered the mattress. And we look up, and the chandelier is waving profusely, left to right. And we looked at it, we're like, we didn't touch that. It's so high up in the air. We lit the mattress on our shoulder to carry up, but the mattress never touched that.
Wow.
We're like, oh, that's weird. But we was thirsty. We went outside to have a beer.
Mm-hmm.
Then the guy across the street walks over, neighborhood watcher, we call him. He comes over. It's one in every neighborhood. And
Oh yeah.
he comes over to be friendly. And hey, you guys are moving in? Like, yeah, we're moving in. He said, I didn't know the house was for sale. But he said, man, that house. He says, nobody lives in that house for long. And then I'm drinking my beer, my first drink, and we look at that. Oh, really? No, nobody ever stays in that house for a long time. So I was like, oh, okay. But I'm house high. I'm glad I got the house. And then he talks a little bit more, and then he just walks on. Well, later that night, Tina and I are laying in bed, and we're talking, and she's like, I said, hey, honey, did you call the power companies and electric companies and get all the names switched over into our name and your name? I said, yeah, I did. I called the power company, and I gave them the address, and, they look on their end, and like I said, the power company knows who's all lived in the address. Mm-hmm. They have it pulls up on the screen properly. And she said, the lady said, sort of what the guy across the street said. She said, oh, we nobody stays in our house, we keep switching the names all the time. And like I said, this is before, and I know the spirits are listening to all this. I'm like, and we just like, we have no idea what's about to come of us. But all these little subtle things are there. When I go back and look, they've been there. And we just shrugged it off. Oh, that's interesting because we're like, this is a nice house. I can imagine somebody coming in here and leaving right away. And then the ghost probably like, wait till
check. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you ever get the church involved, Keith?
Oh, a lot of time, yeah. The church, several churches, several denominations came and blessed the house. The Catholic Church, like one of the reasons for staying was because we were advised to stay. After being told so many times, was the Catholic Church in Seattle and Bothell. Seattle referred us to the local parish in Bothell. And he was very sympathetic to our ordeal. He told us of other stories. His parish, meaning him, handled, Oregon, California, and Washington, of all, phenomena for the church. So he was very sympathetic and believed us and told you're not the only one, believe it or not, you're not the only one experiencing this in and around Bothell. And I believed him. What impressed him or what he never saw before was the frequency. Most people who I talk to, genuine people who understand poltergeists, nobody was dismayed by the activity because these things happen in other cases. Okay. What they were dismayed by or astonished by was the frequency. That's what made Steve Mariner fly, 6,000 to 8,000 miles twice. Because of the frequency. It sounded almost too good to be true, hearing it from afar. Let's go see with our own eyes and ears. It's the frequency that caught people off guard. Because they're like, this is true, because it was almost every day. Also, what is true is, so I told you the day we moved in, May 1st, we signed the papers with the homeowner, and I moved out May 8th, 2016. How many times did you think, let's take a rough guess, both of you, do you think a homeowner visited us in that 4-year period?
I'll go out on a limb and say twice.
Oh God. I will say like 4 times.
Okay. So picture you the homeowner. You say 4. You say twice. 0. The homeowner never visited the house. Even when our claims went public, the homeowner never visited the house to meet the investigator, to shake hands with the investigator, to meet with the church, the priest, or whoever. The only 2 times I saw the homeowner was the day I picked up the keys and the day I gave the keys back to him. Okay. He knew of them. He told us to keep him apprised of the help we were receiving. Okay. But he never came there to see for himself or to meet anybody because we had to get permission from him to allow these people in. And he never came there to meet. When there was damage done, when I had to get appliances replaced because the poltergeist blew it up like the oven, he just ordered the oven and had it delivered. He took my word for it. When the fire department, a fire just erupted in your office. His office. I just lived there.
What is he not telling you?
He never, what are you doing to my house, Mr. Linder, or anything. He only lived 15 minutes away. Okay.
He knew something, didn't he? He knew something for definite.
He knew something, because the day I asked him for permission for ghost adventures to come in there, and I told him some of the activity we were having, because I asked, I said, hey, anything wrong with the house we need to know about? Anything? No. I said, well, we hear strange noises and stuff. Like, nothing. And I said, well, I have a team that wants to come investigate. And I told them, and I started showing them the pictures. He said, well, you have my permission. And whatever they need, just send it to me and I'll sign it and, email it back to you, but you have my permission. And then he said a very peculiar sentence that I knew his subconscious was answering, not him. He said, yeah, it's probably some spirits living in there that are caught up in there that need to be exorcised out.
Why would you come out with that?
To go ahead and do that. I'm like, oh, so you even do? So you believe in spirits too?
Yeah.
He never said he never said raccoons or mice or anything. Oh, it's probably some.
Straight down the spirit route, yeah.
Because the house, I don't know how they are in Canada. The neighborhood I live in is HOA, it's Home Owners Association. So every 911 call to any house in a home association automatically gets notified of that. Okay, just proactively. So what I had to call the Snohomish County for Rhonda's records, he got automatically because he's a member of the home association. He had these records way before we did. Okay? And for the fact that he didn't live in the house ever, never visited the house ever, but was getting these information, he was getting the 911 calls we were getting. When I called the 911 for my fire, because the home association automatically gets those records. I did not know that until after. I was like, oh, he gets them. Yeah, he gets them. It was not until I talked to another neighbor who was on the board of the Homeless Owners Association said, dude, we know about your house. We get that 911 record, dude. He gets it, like, he has not called us or anything, like.
Wow.
So it just made us know that he knew something that, yeah, it's impossible. Yeah.
Now, have you ever experienced anything since you left the house?
Yeah, before and after. I tell people, me and Tina, while living in the house, I would be attacked at work. I would be attacked on business trips, meaning in my hotel room. This is while living in the house. This is when the house was probably at its most apex on a scale of 1 to 5. It was a 5. Occasionally we get attacked while traveling for business. But after that's why there's 2 books after the Bothell Hell House. Attachments, Poltergeist, and Washington State is 85% of what happened to me after I moved out of the house. Now, it was not as violent as what was in the house. I would say it switched from more of a physical to a more psychological, to more mental. But yeah, I was still bombarded. I was still bombarded with the bed shaking, the mattress indentations, the heartbeats coming from within the mattress. That still happens today. None of that has subsided. It will quiet down for a period, but it comes back. It spikes. Occasionally electronic issues, occasionally, nothing I can really hang my hat on, but it's just weird. I can tell you my friends occasionally to this day, if I'm there, like at a party or birthday party at their house, I'll get a phantom doorbell ring, GPS issues, my GPS on my phone when I use like a Uber or Waze or Google Maps or something that just be going crazy, or if I get in the car for Uber ride or something, the car driver's Uber will go crazy as recent as last night. And they'll say, this has never happened before or whatever. One time my GPS a lot of times has me going in circles. I'll be trying to go to SeaTac Airport and it directs, I kid you not, it'll say, SeaTac Airport and we're driving, but if I look down, it's just doing a horseshoe right back to my house. Right back to my house. Yeah, but then, like I said, the nightmares and the night terrors, those haven't subsided.
So, Keith, we're coming to kind of the end of our podcast, and it's been absolutely fascinating with some of the stuff you've come out with. So, I'd like to ask one final question, but how has your entire experience changed you as a person?
Good question. I can tell you the Keith Linder before this started, I was always 50-50 about the paranormal. I was not a downright disbeliever. If you told me you had an encounter, I would be more inclined to believe he or she. Okay, who am I, right? I just thought it'd be interesting. The universe is an interesting place. I can tell you, having lived and seen and felt and heard all this and still doing it, I'm a team member. I'm a believer. Forever will be. It alters you. It alters my state of where we are in the spiritual food chain. I tell people we're not at the top. And it just makes me know that there's a lot out there. I was educated to know by the people I've encountered all over the world, even in Seattle, that we're not the only ones that have gone through this locally. I can point to other homes 20 miles or less away from me that have similar stories or far darker. But it changes you. You can say I'm humbled in the sense of I think I still have my sanity. I have a good support system before, during, and after this ordeal on the way I was raised, my view on life, my outlook on life. Tina aside, and I was very devastated, forever will be, that relationship ended the way it did. But the silver lining, if one can find one, is the amount of evidence that came from not only what I kept video diary of and audio diary of and all that, or what the teams found. I tell people, review and look at Steve Marrow's videos online, his books and whatever, his commentary, Nick Kyle, Don Phillips, and what I put out there. If you really want to study this phenomenon, and you will get a treasure trove of stuff. I can tell you this because I'm an IT specialist. Only 50% of the evidence has been gone through. There's 85% that still has not been touched. So make of that what you will. But it's just a whole lot of stuff. But it changes me. So I'm still the same geeky Star Wars, Star Trekky guy, Marvel Universe guy.
Yeah. Man for my own heart. Okay, Keith, I'd like to say it's been an absolutely fascinating story. I thank you for your time.
Yes.
Megan, I thank you for yours as always.
Thank you.
And
Yes.
hopefully our paths will cross again in the future, and we can listen to you for another 2 hours, because I'm just completely enthralled by what you've been telling me today.
Yeah.
Hence why there's been not much talking and more listening.
Yeah.
Hey, it was good. Thanks for having me. Like I said, if you ever have a question or want me back on, let me know. I'll be happy to do it. Maybe bring some of the investigators in themselves, or you can listen to interview them by themselves and get their viewpoint. But yeah, I'm here to help.
Okay,
Awesome.
perfect. Thanks very much, Steve. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.